They've been telling us who we are for so long, we begin to believe what they've been saying. The closer you get to black, the closer you get to the original human being. Science, not personal, not superior, inferior. I would never teach superiority or inferiority. The strongest humans on the planet Earth is the black woman. The genetic advantage melanated people have in space. Talking about dominant and recessive genes. We are of the space. We are of carbon.
White people can't be equal to black people because they can't produce melanin pigment. That's the classification. Genetic deficiency, mutation, genetic deficiency, inability to produce melanin pigment. It means tiny minority on the planet. Black people have the greatest genetic potential to produce the black pigment melanin, which gives all skin color. So we have the greatest, the highest level.
People who have melanin have been told that everything in the body is governed by the brain, and that is wrong. Melanin acts independently, capable of instantaneous reaction to energy fields without being processed through any of the neuron synapses and dendrite stems of the brain. It takes energy, reacts to it, and processes its own information to its nearby cells. You are totally conscious. Melanin is a gift from the gods.
We call the chemical key to life. The more melanin you have, the more civilized you are. The more melanin you have, the more psychic you are. The more melanin you have, the more information your brain can store.
This is why you have to really be thankful and be appreciative. You have a deeper connection to the universe, to nature, to the supreme being itself. We literally are the people of the stars. We are a part of it physically. Carbon-12 in particular got 6 protons, 6 neutrons, 6 electrons. That's where the original 666. Ability to connect to nature, the grounding, the sun, how we absorb nutrients at a higher rate. Melanin is found in everything from water to hair to, of course, in your blood, your skin and all that. It's found in plant life. It's found in all these different things.
Oh man, the melanin is everything. When a man ejaculates in his woman, that first dot, the moment of conception, that is a melanin dot there. It all started from that dot, and then you notice that that dot becomes the nervous system. Melanin is the beginner of life, and melanin is the end of all life, which is going to be reproduce and basically come into reality again. We cannot function without melanin, and melanin right now is going for $466 per gram.
Have you noticed how, in recent years, there's been an increase in content glorifying black skin as if it holds mystical or supernatural powers? Many in the black community seem to want to prove some form of black supremacy, often under the guise of science. People are now talking about melanin like it's some kind of superpower that enhances everything from intelligence to physical strength and spiritual energy. Social media, especially YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, are full of videos and posts promoting the idea that melanin is not just a pigment with a protective role, but a source of superior intelligence, power, and spiritual energy. Let's talk about it. Racism and white aggression are the result of a lack of melanin. This genetic deficiency is responsible for the hostility of whites towards black people. This sentence of Frances Cress Welsing summarizes the ideology that has governed part of the black conscious community in the last few years. The African American community has always had nationalist and separatist leaders. Just think, for example, of Marcus Garvey or Martin Delany. But never before have we reached such extreme Afrocentrism and racism as in recent years. The African American academic community has transformed over time into what it initially fought for. If before it was important to fight for civil rights and equality against discrimination and injustice, now it is vitally important to enhance and scientifically prove the black supremacy. Academic theories on white racial inferiority arise from a deep resentment that has its roots in various events in history, such as the slave trade or American racial segregation, which have profoundly affected the black community. It is precisely this resentment that has led, starting from the 90s, to the spread of the Melanin Theory, a form of reverse racism and opposite image of white supremacism, deeply rooted and widely supported within the Afrocentric community. Among the proponents of this doctrine, there are the so-called Melanists or melanin researchers, as Frances Cress Welsing,
the black side of the chessboard, because we have the greatest quantity of melanin.
Timothy Owens Moore,
is where you find melanin. Its function is to convert those sound waves into nerve impulses so what the brain can understand what you're talking about.
Carol Barnes,
melanin, and break it down. Mel is a Greek word which means black.
Lila Africa,
flavor inside of a flavor. The more melanin, the more you can taste, the more you can hear, the more you can think.
Bobby Hemmett,
melanin is the origin of all what you are taught as evil.
Ann Brown,
we get into the brain, the more melanin we see, except in Caucasian bodies that we use, you don't see as much.
Naeem Akbar,
reality. Melanin has to do with skin color, it has to do with behavior, it has to do with consciousness, it has to do with thought, it has to do with spiritual transformation, it has to do with cosmic connectedness, it has to do with timelessness, spacelessness, and all that goes with it.
And many others. Melanin theorists argue that black people are biologically superior to white people because of melanin. It should be noted that melanists have a tendency to consider melanin and neuromelanin, the pigment inside the brain, as if they were the same thing. They do not make any distinction despite the fact that they are two pigments with different structures and biochemical pathways. It is precisely the characteristics of this pigment and its quantity, which is more abundant in Africans, that give a scientific explanation to this ethnic superiority. On the contrary, the inhumanity and inferiority of white people, as well as their insensitivity, violent and racist nature, can be attributed to the poor ability to synthesize the pigment and other serious genetic defects such as albinism. Frances Cress Welsing herself, without any scientific evidence, in a 1974 article titled The Cress Theory of Color Comparison, she stated, "White people are affected by a recessive genetic condition called albinism. There is no difference between a white-skinned person and an albino. Because of this genetic defect, they feel inferior to blacks, and it is this sense of inferiority that has led to the desire for control, hatred, and destruction of people of color."
So when we hear people saying that white is superior, white is superior, white is superior, then I raise the question in my mind, well, let's look first of all at what white represents. And when we look at white skin from the point of view of the biologist or the geneticist, we see that the inability to produce color, the inability to produce melanin pigment, which is responsible for all skin coloration, that not being able to produce this color is actually a genetic deficiency state, and it is a form of albinism. When they moved out of Europe, circled around the globe and found out, wow, well, there are very few people like ourselves who have this inability to produce color. And they had a psychological reaction to, number one, the fact that they were a numerical minority, and number two, on the basis that they did not have the capacity to produce color, as the vast majority of the people in the world did. And they felt color deficient, numerically deficient and color deficient. Now, one way that they could psychologically compensate for this sense of genetic inadequacy and numerical deficiency would be to say, well, I really don't like the fact that I can't produce color, but if I can make the people who have color believe that they're the ugly people and feel that they are degraded, then I can feel good.
And welcome to the second part of our series on melanin with Mr. Carol Barnes, a melanin researcher who for the last 14 years has been a polymer or plastic and rubber researcher in the chemical industry. We begin this segment by discussing melanin's sensitivity to changes in the Earth's magnetic field, radar, electromagnetic radiation, sound, and electrical stimulation.
Carol Barnes, an African-American chemist, in the book Melanin, The Chemical Key to Black Greatness, argued that melanin is able to process information without transmitting it to the brain and to regulate the activities and functions of the organism because it represents the chemical basis of life. African men are distinguished from others by the high concentrations of melanin present in various organs of the body because it is involved in the regulation of vital processes to support life.
But once I got into the literature and started seeing all of the technical reports that was written, they were talking all of these positive things that this molecule did. And I said, well, wait a minute. This is not what, we think of ourselves. We think of this thing as being kind of negative here, or curse or whatever. And they are saying that it scavenges free radicals, it protects you from the sun, it has superconduction capabilities, it absorbs electromagnetic energy, just a host of things that are chemical and physical properties that, if could be harvested, could be used in an product purpose for improving life somehow. Developing products around the chemistry of the melanin molecules is a great thing, I think.
Where is melanin stored in our bodies, and what does it do? I mean, what is the function specifically?
Well, in some areas, they, like the skin, they pretty much know that it's a UV absorber, a very, very good UV absorber. In other words, it has its greatest strength, because of course you want it to absorb so the harmful energy won't get to the proteins and start destroying the DNA. So there's a lot of sense there. In other words, nature knew what it was doing when it says, okay, we want this molecule to absorb this light in this region, because this is where the highest energy is, and if this DNA is sensitive to it, it'll just be destroyed if it's irrigated too much or irradiated too much with the light. The other thing too is melanin is it's located in regions in the body that has high activity, high energy activity, like in the eyes, in the skin, in the inner ear, with the transduction of sound, and in the iris, in the retina of the eye, where light energy enters the eye before it's processed and sent to the brain. Throughout the gastrointestinal tract and the viscerals in the organ is also soluble melanin that's flowing through your bloodstream. It appears to be in every major region throughout the body, including the cells. And then you come to a cluster of regions, say like specific organs that tend to be black in nature, have high concentrations of melanin, where they have a specific job to function. And that's one of the ones where we're dealing with, and it's called the locus ceruleus and the substantia nigra, which are located in the brain. And Dr. King talks a lot about the unconscious nature realm that the locus coeruleus take you into. They have evidence to show that if you listen to music over a period of time at a certain volume, the melanocytes in the inner ear that produces the melanin behaves like the melanocytes in the skin, where they increase their production of melanin. In other words, the inner ear becomes tan, if you want to look at it that way. It produces more melanin, and as a result of the vibrational energies coming into it constantly.
Furthermore, Barnes was adamant that a white man's conspiracy to destroy melanin had been set in motion. The entire African society is continually attacked by the spread of toxic chemical compounds and harmful drugs aimed at destroying melanin. Substances like cocaine, LSD, or marijuana, very similar to the pigment, they were created specifically to destroy it and create addiction. Barnes goes on to underline the importance of melanin in various areas. Melanin is responsible for the existence of civilization, philosophy, religion, truth, justice, and righteousness of the African people.
Welcome to the Clegg series, When Black Men Ruled the World. In this set of tapes, we shall reveal little-known or acknowledged facts of history about black people in ancient times. On the cover of its issue of January 1988, Newsweek magazine carried a painting of a young black couple flanking the biblical tree of life. The picture was captioned, "The Search for Adam and Eve." Newsweek has revealed what many scientists and scholars now believe, that Africa was the birthplace of the human family, that the first members of what we now describe as the modern human race were black Africans, and that all human beings around the world share common roots in prehistoric Africa. In other words, we all stem from the same African family tree.
White individuals who contain low levels of melanin will accordingly behave in a barbaric manner. Melanin gives blacks the ability to feel because it absorbs all energy frequencies. Since white people have less of it, they are rigid, insensitive, heartless, cold, calculating, and unspiritual.
So they are deficient in melanin, you see. And without the melanin, you have no balance. You lack spirituality, you see. So we have three major things. We have the melanin deficiency. This is anatomically. I'm not going into social science. We all know about prejudice and all that sort of thing, but we tend to not look at the animal that behaves like a human being. You have something that's called obsessive compulsive behavior, which you call racism. They come from a glaciated area, selenium deficiency, zinc deficiency, phosphorus deficiency, potassium deficiency. They also come from a melanin deficiency. And what does all of this produce? I repeat, unstable thinking, easily irritated, aggressive behavior, distorts reality.
Melanists attribute several extraordinary properties to the pigment. Melanin is able to absorb light, sounds, cosmic rays, electromagnetic energy, and is able to convert light into sound and vice versa, and to conduct electricity without resistance. Additionally, the pigment is capable of converting energy into a form of memory and knowledge. In the book Why Darkness Matters, The Power of Melanin in the Brain, Anne Brown, Richard King, Owens Moore, and Bruce Bainham, they write, Neuromelanin is an electrochemical transducer. The dark color allows the absorption of various forms of electromagnetic energy, which are then converted into energy states used by the nervous system. Has a critical role in promoting and optimizing the functioning of the central nervous system. It acts both as an antioxidant and as a semiconductor, increasing the speed of nervous impulses and transforming physical stimuli into neuronal activity. The pigment also facilitates the release of neurotransmitters like dopamine, serotonin, norepinephrine. According to Melanists, melanin granules function like mini computers capable of responding and analyzing stimuli, as well as regulating both the psychological and physiological processes of the human body. Also found in muscles, melanin increases motor skills, performance, and agility. The pigment would also confer extrasensory, spiritual, and metaphysical abilities that allow one to communicate with ancestors, the surrounding environment, and the cosmos.
It's not a debate, of whether or not we want to be racist, This is a device system. This is something that has been designed to continue to keep us oppressed because we are the people with the power. We are the spiritual people. They are the material people. Okay? Now, they had to rape Mother Earth of her materials because they did not possess it with them themselves. We do. Okay? We have the power because we have the melanin, which gives us the fluidity with the universe. We're talking energies here. And if we're talking the great mother, Newt, who is the blackness of the universe because of the melanin factor, this is what gives us our fluidity with the universe, our power out in the universe. We create our own reality because we are the gods.
Melanin is a neurochemical that is produced in part through the pituitary and the pineal gland.
No, it's not.
Now, historically, it had always been thought that melanin played a significant role in the intellectual propensity of African people. For example, when you study writings on melanin or the color of Africans, many of the Greek philosophers believed that melanin played some sort of a role in how Africans had been able to create and develop some of the sciences that they had come to be known for. So melanin was always considered an intellectual sort of a chemical.
Basically, what he's trying to say is that people without melanin are less intelligent than those with melanin.
Yeah, see, this is melanin theory. This is what I was talking about. This melanin theory.
Oh my God.
I want to know,
supremacists say the exact same thing. That's black
true.
people
Yes.
The pineal gland, which produces melanin, it's shaped like a pine cone. And the origin of the word pineal literally means pine cone.
Do people wait? Do they actually think? Do they think that these people back then knew what the inside of the brain looks like?
I mean, I'm sure they
because they have melanin.
hammered open some heads and like poked around to the brain. The problem
Yeah,
is,
but how would they know that specific part is what makes melanin?
it's all make believe and it's all more recent shit. This is not ancient ideas. Decalcifying your pineal gland is the kind of shit like woke, super spiritual, crusty hippies talk about all the time, man. You just gotta decalcify your pineal gland, open your third eye. It's bullshit. These guys are co-opting pseudoscience that's been around for like a couple hundred years and saying like, oh no, we knew about that like 3,000-4,000 years ago.
Oh man, we were woke.
Because it was super woke.
Let me raise this question with you. This is a time in this community when we need healing, when we need reconciliation.
Truth will heal.
Let me finish.
A lie will not heal. The lie of white supremacy, the lie that blacks are the victims of their own victimization. And when we raise the question of our oppression, we're dealing with victimology.
Who is articulating that lie?
People have said when we raise the question of our enslavement or our degradation, we are dealing with oppression studies, we're dealing with victimology. We cannot march into the 21st century with this 19th century ideology of white supremacy. And that's the way we feel. And it's not me, it's millions of us across this nation and the world. We are going to get at the truth of our relationship, and the relationship is going to be based upon integrity.
Help me get at the truth then on
it's
a number.
It's going to be based upon integrity.
Let me get in.
People have profiteered off of African peoples. They have profiteered off of African peoples.
That's part of the history that we know.
Okay, and everybody has been involved in it.
But don't point the finger. Don't point the finger at specific people and reflect on their ethnicity. That's what bothers people at a time in when a community needs healing, and a community seems to need people who are looking for a way to bridge the gap between them and look for a need for understanding.
Black people, non-white people have heard over and over again, you're genetically inferior because you are non-white. That in reality, white skin is a genetic recessive status, not as said by Francis Welsing.
What is
you see? Meaning that if
you and I were to have a baby, the baby would have color, and you make the contribution and I don't.
That white plus colored. Well, wait a minute. It's not Francis Welsing that is concerned about the disappearance of white. Ben Wattenberg just wrote a book, The Birth Dearth. There have been multiple articles in the newspaper talking about the decline of Western populations.
It is clear that these theories are totally without foundation, both on a scientific and human level. Brother Berean was one of the few to denounce the demonic doctrines and the lies of the Black conscious community. I highly recommend watching his videos. You can find the link to his channel in the description box.
Conscious community walks in blind faith. What made me leave the conscious community? One thing above everything is the lies. A whole bunch of lies. Plain and simple, there's too many lies in the conscious community. Melanin, y'all Google that, the Melanin Theory. That's Dr. Francis and Leonard Jeffries, Naeem Akbar, and all of them back in the days. A lot of people believe that melanin is the key. Melanin is the key to true humanity. And the white man that came out the Caucasus Mountains of Europe crawling on all four, he has no melanin. But the theory is in the conscious community is that black people have melanin, plants and other things have melanin, but the white man don't have no melanin. And that proves that the white man is wicked. On top of slavery and some other stuff, they mix that together and they act like they're coming and they're bringing us something. When you start dealing with racial issues, that really has no place in science or true scholarship. This is a lot of where the madness comes in. First of all, when you start telling people, making statements like, you talk about melanin, so you act like you're coming scientifically and you act like you're coming with the newest scientific knowledge. One, you make a mistake because a lot of people email me and say white people have no melanin. Asians have a little bit, but blacks have the most, and that's why we're the most spiritual, because the sun has kissed us and we're closer to the sun, and the white man is the wicked devil because he gets skin cancer. If you go with the same line of reasoning, there are white people that say that blacks are inferior intellectually. They're inferior physically. They're inferior because of A, B, C, and D. And they'll bring up certain arguments about diseases and other things. How many people have won the Nobel Peace Prize, how many black scientists there are, and they'll use that to attempt to say that white people are automatically smarter. It's the same argument. British Israelism and the European races, black people that's involved in this black movement. Let's just say the black movement, the whole quote unquote conscious movement. The white man is the devil.
These melanistic notions and other extremes of Afrocentrism made many people uncomfortable, including many black educators. John Warfield, for example, former director of the African American Studies Center at the University of Texas at Austin, defined the Melanistic theory, a concept that is difficult to support scientifically, and believed Afrocentrism, a romanticization of Africa that should make everyone think. Manning Marable, former director of African American Studies at Columbia University, defined the Melanist doctrine, a vulgar Afrocentrism based exclusively on speculation and racial division. According to Marable, it developed as a desperate and urgent need for identity, purpose, and human development in the context of the Black community. The idea that the African ethnic group is superior to others for the melanin content in the body is unacceptable on a scientific, moral, and human level. All human beings have melanin without exception, and all those who support the theories of this ideological movement do nothing but further widen the gap between the different peoples of the world. We, future generations, our children must not and cannot live with hatred towards others just because they apparently seem different. By quoting what the civil rights leader Martin Luther King said in a speech at Southern Methodist University on March 17, 1966, a doctrine of black supremacy is as dangerous as a doctrine of white supremacy. God is not interested in the freedom of black men or white men. God is interested in the freedom of the entire human race, in the creation of a society in which every man respects the dignity and value of people.